Hi, I'm Monumente Reme. That's Unam Imnaritni backwards, and I played Icheb on Star Trek Voyager. You're listening to the Trek Geeks podcast with Bill Smith and Dan Davidson.
Biggest little show this side of the Alpha Quadrant, your independent Star Trek podcast. Welcome, everyone, to Trek Geeks. Thanks so much for downloading and being with us. We're glad you're here. I'm your co-host, Bill Smith. Joining me as he does this time every episode, well, you know, he didn't fire the phasers on the NX-01, but I sure as hell would love to fire him out of Photon Tube. He's the very brilliant and sparkling Dan Davidson. Dan, welcome aboard, muchacho.
You always got to bring that NX-01 crap up at certain times, don't you?
I do. I love that ship.
Wonder why that is.
I hate you.
Oh, wow. That just kind of escalated quickly. I was going to say thanks for being here. I do have a question.
Yeah.
What if it was a different time that you introduced me on the show? Because you always say, as he does at this time, every episode. What if it was later?
Like the end? That would be awesome.
That would be like the opening credits of Miri being the end credits, right?
Well, I think you just gave me a Janeway brain cramp. Thank you, Dan. Dan, speaking of which, we had a great episode commentary last week. We had a lot of fun with it, with Miri. Lots of feedback that our wives should host this show instead of us. How do you respond, Dan?
Hey, they are the better half of both of us. So why not? I think getting them to do that is going to be quite the challenge, though. That ain't happening.
I was thinking that we could do some drunken spouse commentary. We feed Sue and Kelly a bunch of wine and make them watch an episode that we don't like.
Oh, my God. I love that idea. I'm going to ask her about that. I'm sure the answer is going to be no, but I'm going to try because I love the fans and I love the podcast.
Well, Dan, speaking of things we love, we have another special guest geek for the full hour.
Oh, my God. Another one. Yes, a return guest geek. Mr. TrekRanks, EnterpriseExtra. Geez, man, how many names do you actually have, dude? Jim Moorhouse is here for another episode of the Top 10, and this week it is in honor of the 30th anniversary of The Next Generation. Jim, welcome.
That's James T. Moorhouse to you.
Oh, so sorry, sir. Okay.
Excited to be here on the NX-01.
The T stands for Tiberius, of course.
Of course.
Okay.
Jim, we are psyched to have you here. We're gonna talk a lot about some TNG this year, and we're happy you're joining us, man.
Oh, it's gonna be fantastic. We did the TOS, which 80 episodes. There's a lot of duplicates. It was gonna be a lot of crossover. These lists are gonna be very different, and it's gonna be interesting to see what you guys come up with.
You think so, huh?
And how wrong Dan is.
Yes, and how wrong Dan. Well, as we know from Michelle Specht, it's always Dan's fault. So, Dan, you're screwed, buddy.
That's all right. I'm used to it.
Speaking of being used to it, by now you should be used to giving out the contact info, Monfrere. Why don't you give it a whirl?
Absolutely. I'm going to do it best I can on Twitter, Facebook, and Skype, and on Instagram. Our handle is Trek Geeks. You can send us an email at podcast@trekgeeks.com. Or you can give us a call at 508-784-1701 to leave a voicemail, online at speakpipe.com/trekgeeks. As always, on Facebook, you can join our official group, Camp Kittimer. We got some cool people there, like Jim Moorhouse. No, Jim Moorhouse isn't on there, so never mind.
Not on Facebook, sorry.
No. You can go to facebook.com/groups/Camp Kittimer. All of our folks on the site are having great discussion as always, and just go to that site. Heather, Jackie, or Dan will let you write in to join on all the fun. But just remember, we're going to write down what you say, we're going to record it, and we're going to use it. So just watch yourself.
Wow, what's with all the harshness?
It's protect. I want to protect the people. You never know what's going to be used against you at some point.
Yeah, or you could just say, we might use it on the show.
Yeah, we might use it. Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
There you go. Yeah, so oddly enough, Jim Moorhouse not in Camp Kittimer. Mark Zuckerberg is. No,
Wow.
no, I'm kidding.
Thank God.
That didn't really happen.
Who's that guy?
Yeah, I have no idea who that guy is. And with that, we shall move face-based. We shall move on to the news, gentlemen. It's time for Jim Morehouse's favorite segment. It's the news from TrekNews.net. Ooh, the NBC News theme. Very
I'm flipping
nice.
channels tonight. That's right.
Little John Williams. That's pretty good. It's the news from TrekNews.net, online at TrekNews.net. I bet you didn't know that. Dan, Jim, up first. Birthday greetings this week to he who will always be James T. Kirk.
It's amazing, isn't it? Happy birthday to William Shatner. The captain himself turned an amazing 86 years young this week, March 22nd, 2017. It really is amazing. 86, and he is still going like he is 21, and I think it's going to be that way for a long time. Happy birthday, Captain, and thank you for being the one who started it all.
He really is, and I hope that, Jim, I'm sure you agree with this too. If I have half the energy that Bill Shatner does at 66, I'm going to be really happy.
It's unbelievable, this guy's energy. He does not stop. Retire, man. Just take some time off. You're wearing me out.
Bill, you don't have half his energy now.
Exactly.
I know. I wish I did. I mean, God. He's a force of nature. He's, like I said, he's always going to be Captain Kirk, even when he's just being William Shatner. I love the guy. I'm sure you guys love the guy. And what can we say about happy birthday, right?
Happy
I
birthday.
love the guy, even when he's flaming everybody and trolling everybody. It's hilarious. It's his thing. Just let him do it.
Oh, he's turned that into an art form now.
It is an art form. It is hilarious to watch.
He's it's not troll level 1000 now. It's Shat level 1000. Let's see, Dan, up next. You love Star Trek novels, and there's a rumor that you may have already pre-ordered the one that you're about to talk about next. Can you confirm or deny, sir?
I will absolutely confirm that. I have pre-ordered it. I actually brought up the autobiography of James T. Kirk a couple of weeks ago when we were doing our top 10, or our See It or Skip It, rather, of the original series, and how that novel helped me appreciate The Conscience of the King a lot more than I originally had. It's very... Oh, no, you please go ahead.
No, I said see it.
Okay. Okay, yeah. The author of that novel, David Goodman, is going to be releasing his second quote-unquote autobiography. It is going to be the autobiography of Jean-Luc Picard. Very excited about this. I have pre-ordered it on Amazon, and it will be releasing throughout the quadrant on April 3rd. So, October 3rd. So we've got a ways to go.
Oh, I was getting all excited because
Me
it's
too.
like next week, and now once again, it's your fault, Dan.
I did that on purpose just to disappoint you, co-host.
Add that to the list. No, this sounds like a fabulous book. And Jim, are you a big novel reader?
You know, I used to be. I've definitely cut back in the recent years, but I read the James T. Kirk autobiography. David Goodman killed it. Absolutely killed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you were right about the Conscience of the King and how that book added to the episode. It really did. Made me appreciate it more as well, even though I already loved it. But when I heard this was coming out, so excited. It's perfect. Absolutely fantastic they're doing it.
Dan, didn't you call Conscience of the King a skip it?
I did, but I said it was a skip it because of how it made me feel when I was growing up watching it. It made me think of like, Hitlerish character, and it was very uncomfortable for me. And then I was also very disturbed by what Kirk's friend had happened to his face with the leather covering, and it was just something that always bothered me a lot. But the novel helped me appreciate it more, so it was always a skip it for years and years and years. So I kept it as a skip it on the episode, but it is something that I appreciate now.
That is the best waffle since Aunt Jemima. That is amazing. That's a great job, buddy. Kudos to you.
Well, thank you very much.
And I can't believe you guys think Lenora Khan was overacting. No.
She does go a little bit off the top when she
I
goes
don't
a little
know what
crazy.
you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, I rated the episode of Skip It. I mean, I see it. I should at least get a pass.
You did. Yes, you did.
Love that episode. The other thing I love is Star Trek Discovery. Even though it hasn't premiered yet, I'm very excited. And Dan, it looks like several cast members were out on the town in Toronto this week.
Yeah, this was very cool. It's not an official picture, but a photo of almost the entire cast did emerge this week. Several cast members were celebrating the birthday of James Frain, who will be playing Spock's father, Sarek, in Star Trek Discovery. And they had just a great photo was taken with cast members Jason Isaacs, Michelle Yeoh, Chris Obi, Sonequa Martin Green was there with her husband Kenrick, Doug Jones was there, James Frain, of course, and also Shazad Latif. So it was really cool to see them all together. So they really are filming. That's kind of cool. When we're going to see it, we still don't know, but that's all right. We can't wait for it.
Maybe you guys noticed this too. One of the first things that struck me about that photo was that Doug Jones's head looks shaved.
I did not notice that.
Yeah.
I was too wrapped up with him being in Miri last week.
Jim, when you catch up to that episode, you'll hear what we mean.
Haven't listened to that one yet. Yeah. No, that photo was, so exciting to see them all together as a group. Makes it even more real and that much closer to happening here in the next few months.
I hope it drops right after we get back from STLV, because if it drops during STLV, I'm going to not spend any time in the convention. I'm going to watch that episode over and over and over and over again.
Pretty sure it's going to be September.
Yeah, that's your bet?
Well, if they're going to air the first one on CBS, that'll be during sweeps.
Okay.
Makes sense. Just makes sense.
Does.
We should start like a pool to see who gets closest.
Ooh.
Oh, Tom Paris does that on Voyager a lot.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I'm going to guess September 24th.
All right. You heard it here first. Enterprise Extra takes 9/24.
Which just happens to be the day I was on Star Trek. But
oh, God. I knew there had to be a tie-in.
Always brings that up. Why does this guy always bring that up?
Because it's awesome.
That's actually a week before my birthday. So that's
all
okay.
right.
And gents, penultimately in news, it looks like Dan, some Trek alums have been nominated for some Emmys this week.
Yeah, I just saw this earlier today, and I threw it in there without you knowing. Yeah, 3 Star Trek alums have been nominated for Emmys this week. Nichelle Nichols earned her first nomination ever for Outstanding Guest Performer in a Drama Series for her role as Lucinda Winters on The Young and the Restless. Congratulations to her. And also Quark himself, Armin Shimmerman, is celebrating his first nomination for Outstanding Supporting or Guest Actor in a Digital Daytime Drama Series for his role as Max on the Western web series Redbird. So congratulations to him as well. And Whoopi Goldberg has kind of gotten good at this. It's kind of just normal for her. She has earned her 14th nomination. Her and her group of co-hosts over at The View have been nominated for Outstanding Entertainment Talk Show Host. So congratulations to all 3 of our Trek alums for those nominations. That's pretty cool.
I think the amazing thing from this is that Nichelle has never been nominated for an Emmy before, and I am overjoyed that she's one of the finalists this year.
Yeah, that'll be great. I'd love to see her take that one home.
Pretty cool.
I don't know anything about Redbird. Have either of you guys heard of that?
Isn't that a drink?
I had not heard of it, but does anybody deserve an acting award nomination any more than Armin Shimmerman? I think not. That guy's
I agree with
incredible.
you.
Absolutely.
Everything Armin is in, he's fantastic. And he did a brief guest spot on Timeless this year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so good.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Yep.
You know, I loved what they did with his character. I wish that he had been around more, but he kind of started the whole thing.
He was Rittenhouse.
Yeah, he was Rittenhouse.
Not Mike Rittenhouse.
No. Oh, that Rittenhouse is probably pretty evil too, as much as we love him.
Oh, probably true.
And gentlemen, now lastly in news, Dan, it looks like the Deep Space Nine Deep Space Nine, Doc. I've got Davidson disease there.
Oh, thank you.
Their crowdfunder wrapped up recently, and it did okay, right?
It did all right. You know, you can only ask for so much. So they only had 423% of what they actually asked for. Wrapped up a week or two ago, at last count, $646,647 has been raised for What We Left Behind. Over 9,500 backers of this project. I am just so thrilled at the response that this has gotten and cannot wait to see what they do in this documentary. It is going to be phantasmic.
I'm sorry, did you say phantasmic?
I did.
So now you're invoking Disney.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, just want to be sure.
That's for Heather.
Well, okay, fair enough. I'll allow it. I just am stunned that they did over $600,000. I can't wait for this documentary, Jim. I really can't.
The total is absolutely staggering. The most amazing thing I think with like 5 days to go, they were still under 500. And they just the last 5 days was just like, I couldn't believe how it kept growing and growing. To get to almost 650 is unbelievable.
I guess it's I'm sorry, Bill. I guess it's fair to say that the only goal that they didn't meet, quote unquote, and it wasn't a real goal, was they were hoping to have 9,999 backers. Right. But hey, 9,500, that's not too bad.
Yep. Well, I'm excited that they met and surpassed all the stretch goals, because it means this doc is going to be as great as they hope it will be. You know, all the things that they thought we could do if we got the funding, they're going to be able to do, and I couldn't be happier.
It's going to be awesome.
Yes, it is. And with that, gents, we'll move on to the main segment of today's episode. That involves ranking some Star Trek or something, I guess.
Something like that.
Yes. Is that what we're doing?
Allegedly.
Whatever.
Gentlemen, we gathered here today to talk about our 10 favorite episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation. It, of course, being the 30th anniversary year. And the inspiration of this, as always, Jim, is TrekRanks.com, because we love what you do out there.
Awesome. It's a labor of love. And I have no idea how many people look at it or have seen it, but I did it for myself, basically. Just rank all the episodes. Just give me something to talk about with people.
Nice.
Well, and I love your format too. It's essentially 5 words and a hashtag.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I think that is perfect, because you can very quickly get what you feel the review for the episode is, and then get some sort of tag to sort of remember it by. So that's the rules we're going to employ today. Now, on your site, you usually do 2-part episodes as 2 episodes, correct?
Correct. I do go by whatever the production. Whatever the production number for the episode was. So, but I love that we're combining 2-parters into one, because it gives me more episodes to talk about.
Do you know what a pain that was?
Yeah, so Dan, was very excited yesterday. He's like, "Yeah, I've done my rankings." And then this morning I said to him, "Hey, you counted the 2-parters as 1 episode, right?" Oh.
And I was like, "Oh, beep."
Yeah.
Phil, you told us that like weeks ago.
I know, right? Right?
I don't listen to Bill. Everybody should know that by now.
I'm sorry,
Understood.
What? So, gents, we're going to go through our top 10 in, I guess, in descending order. We'll start with number 10. Does anybody have any honorable mentions of ones that didn't make the top 10 before we get started?
Too many to mention. Hey, but here I want to know, before you guys start, what was your criteria? What were you guys...
Good question.
That's a very good question.
The best art, most artistic, most popular.
Go ahead, Bill,
Dan.
why don't you go ahead first, man? I'll follow up after you.
That's amazing. I just said, "Go ahead, Dan."
I know you did.
For me, a lot of it had to do with episodes that I felt had exceptional writing and were really great character pieces. Because for all the action and humor and effects that Star Trek can have, at the end of the day, it's about humans telling a story. whether they're dressed as Klingons or whatever. So I tried to find episodes that I thought told the best stories, personally.
Okay. Well, when I was going through the list, and I will say up front, I have no idea what Bill put for his list. And Jim, I did not go to your page to look. I want to be surprised.
Good.
So it's going to be a surprise from both of you guys. But what I did is I picked the episodes that I enjoy the most, the ones that I love to watch over and over again. I don't get tired of, and most of them do have what Bill talked about: the great character development and the great writing. The one that I chose as number one has the most meaning for me, but the other ones are just the ones that I just love to watch and that were just fun and make me say, "Oh my God, this is why I love this series so much."
That's awesome. That's similar to the way I do it. I usually end up, no matter how much I take into consideration criteria, art, whether it's a artistic episode or well written or well produced, it always comes down to me like, if I could only watch one for the rest of my life, which one would I pick?
Aquiel.
That's the list.
Dude,
That
you
is
just gave my number one.
Literally last on my list.
We agree on so much about that episode.
Well, I'm going to give you one honorable mention. It's number 17 on TrekRanks. I know neither one of. I'm not going to give another one because you guys might have the other ones on your list. I know you guys won't have this one because it's the super outlier. Contagion is number 17 on my list.
Interesting. I really like that episode.
There's something about that episode for me that's so hypnotic with the way it unfolds and the Iconians and the mystery. And yes, they reboot the Enterprise at the end. I get it. Hey, but in 1989, that was a great idea. No one knew what that was.
It really was, because Windows 95 hadn't come out yet. So,
oh my God! By the way, I said that I didn't even look at my 5 words in a hashtag, which are intriguing Iconians add to mystery. Hashtag don't care about reboot. So
That's
at
great.
least I'm consistent.
you are. Dan, did you have any honorable mentions?
I do have one honorable mention. I actually had it in my list and I moved it out, so I guess it's good enough for an honorable mention. And it is one that probably a lot of people are going to be like, really? But it's just a fun episode, and that's Parallels. I love that whole idea of that episode. 285,000 Enterprise appearing all in the same area. You got wild-eyed, bushy-bearded Riker screaming at the other Enterprise that they're not going to go back to the Borg. I just think that episode is a ton of fun.
That's a top 20 on TrekRanks.
Nice.
Interesting. My essentially number 11, my honorable mention, I'm positive is not top 20 or 30 on TrekRanks. It's just an episode I really love, and it's Frame of Mind.
That is a good episode.
It is an outstanding character piece, and Frakes rarely ever gets this much to do, and he slays it. You know, if I had to go with 5 words and a hashtag for that one, it would be Riker is literally going and saying hashtag what to eat, what to think, what to say.
That's great. It's number 36 on TrekRanks. It's
awesome. So close.
It's a great episode.
He plays a tremendous psychopath in that episode because he is losing his mind in that, and he does a great job in showing it in his eyes and in his actions. Very good episode.
I've probably seen it 20 times, and every time I'm still like, wait, what's the next thing? Where are they going with this? It's so well done.
Yes, it is. And speaking of well done, gents, why don't we move into our top 10? Jim, as the guest geek of the hour, why don't you kick it off with your number 10 spot?
All right, I'm going to start. Number 10 for me, which is actually a 2-parter, is definitely not on anybody's list. I get side eyes when I mention that this is in my top 20, top 10. But I love this episode. It's a swashbuckling adventure. I can rewatch it every day. And it is Gambit, part 1 and part 2 from season 7.
Interesting.
Wow.
The 5 words and a hashtag is underrated script provides rousing adventure, hashtag Stone of Gaul. And I picked this episode even before I realized I was going to be in an episode Awakening, in which they talk about in this episode.
Yes, they do.
Which is amazing. But yeah, so it's total outlier. And what do you guys think of it? Where would you guys put it? Kind of middle of the road, or?
I like Gambit quite a bit. I think for me, it would probably be top 20. Simply just because it tells a great story. I mean, at the very beginning of the first part, you think Picard's dead, for God's sake.
He was
Vaporized. But it's a great little twist. Riker gets to do some cool stuff. You got Robin Curtis, which is always great.
Yes.
She turns out to be a double agent of sorts. Yep. And it's Patrick Stewart, as always, is incredible. So I love it.
Yeah, I agree. It's also a great episode. I probably would put it, top 30 maybe. I'm not sure if I would, you get into some of these episodes and you don't really have any idea where they're going to be because there's so many episodes the series. Yeah. But it is definitely a good one. I love the guy who plays the captain of the ship. I can't recall his name right now, but he's great. I've loved him in everything he's done. Definitely it's definitely a good. It would be a see it if we were doing that season tonight.
Yes. Okay, that's good.
Spoiler alert.
For me, the Picard's death and the emotion of the crew it's really well done. It hits home. It's powerful.
Agreed. Dan, how about your number 10, buddy?
All right, for my number 10, this is going to probably surprise a bunch of people, but it's just a fun episode for me that I love, and that is Fistful of Datas. I love that episode. It is just so great how they turn it into a Western. My 5-word description is good ancient West holodeck fun. And the hashtag is #Enterprise riding off into the sunset, which I think is one of the best endings to any episode. The harmonica music with the Enterprise going off towards that sunset is perfection.
Wow, those are strong words from the gentleman from Maine. It's a good pick. I like that in your number 10 spot.
All right.
Great pick.
My number 10 is actually the series finale, All Good Things.
Ooh,
really?
Yeah, I've got some other episodes that, for me, charted higher than that because All Good Things is probably the best finale of all the Trek series, in my opinion. I think it's my 5 words are wonderful bookend to Farpoint pilot. # Gene would have loved it.
That's a good hashtag.
I love that. We'll be talking about it again.
Oh, you don't say.
All right.
Fistful of Datas is great, Dan. That's top 25 on TrekRanks.
Thank you. That is coming from you. That is high praise, and I appreciate
Super
it.
Fun.
That is so. Number 9. I'll go first on this one, and then Jim, you can probably go after me, and Dan can just wait.
Let's do it.
Number 9 for me is Thine Own Self. It's always been one of my favorite Data episodes. Wow. I love that story. 5 words: Data's amnesia causes big problems. # radioactive.
Nice. That was just on recently on Heroes and Icons, and I loved it. But I got to say, one of the best parts of that episode is how goofy some of the things that doctor said of what was going on. I thought that was just great.
She was good.
You mean he's not an Iceman? Jim, how about
all the stories where Data's solo on a planet are great. I love that.
Oh,
that is a total outlier top 10 and an awesome pick.
Thank you. Jim, number 9, sir.
Okay, mine is Face of the Enemy from season 6. Tal Shiar intrigue keeps you guessing. # Troy at her best.
Definitely.
Couldn't agree more.
It's a great episode. So much going on in that with the way she has to figure it out on the fly. And Carolyn Seymour as the Romulan commander is awesome. I got a huge crush on her.
I love that they gave Marina so much to do in this episode. Yep. In Deep Space Nine, I was worried that when they did, I think it was Second Skin, that it would be a little too much like Face of the Enemy, and I was glad that it wasn't. Mm-hmm. But Face of the Enemy is definitely top 20 for me.
I gotta say, of all of the alien races in the Next Generation, the worst looking, comfort-wise uniforms have to be the Romulans. Those
so roomy.
Things, oh gosh, they're just so boxy and pointy. Anyway.
Your face is boxy and pointy.
Oh, okay. I knew that was going to come in at some point.
Dan, it's up to you to save us.
Well, for my number 9, I got another one that's a little bit campy, but it's something that I just love to watch, and that is Future Imperfect.
Wow.
I do like those time change episodes. My description is 16-year Riker memory gap. # didn't see the minuet twist coming. I cannot speak, and that's no surprise to Bill.
Not at all.
I do love it. I love Picard as an admiral with the beard and the little subtleties like the comm badge change. This was one of the first times that you saw that. The ending was a little a little soft on the ending, but I just love the whole idea of the story and how Riker figured out that things were not what they seemed to be.
Tomalak.
Yeah.
Shall we end this charade? I remember that from the promo.
Yes.
With Ernie Anderson's voice. Just fantastic stuff.
My
Dan,
name is Barash.
Dan, that's a great pick. I love that right there. That's
Thanks,
awesome. Wow. So far, we're off to a good start. Jim, we probably have some episodes that are a little surprising so far.
There's a couple of surprises, but I knew that we wouldn't have as much crossover.
That's true.
178 episodes, I think. That's
Yeah.
too deep. It's gonna be. We're gonna talk about probably 25 episodes on this.
Well, all right. Well, then number 8, why don't you kick it off, good sir, and tell us what you got?
Well, number 8, actually, you guys might have this one a little bit higher. We shall see. And I love this episode. Could easily be my number 1. It is The Defector.
Nice.
5-word summary is, did Jarok die for nothing? And the hashtag is Romulan Varul.
Nice.
We might be talking about an episode later.
Yeah.
Actually, that one's not on my list, believe it or not.
Wow.
I do love that episode. I mean, how could you not? But plus, it's got James Sloyan. I mean, come on.
That was his beginning with Star Trek.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it's not on my list either.
Oh.
What?
Mm-hmm.
What? That is crazy. Well, Dan, why don't you tell us what your number 8 is, buddy?
Yes, my number 8 is Starship Mine.
Wow.
Interesting.
Love that one. Description, Barian sweep cleans and kills. Hashtag Barian field can cause skin irritation. I love this episode. It's a great Picard episode. The whole thing on the planet with Hutchinson and Data trying to, imitate him with small talk. Plus the first appearance ever in Star Trek with Tim Russ, who I did not know had actually tried out for the part of Worf and for a major lead in Deep Space Nine before he was cast in Voyager. So, we saw him here for the first time.
Third time's a charm.
Yes, sir. What'd you get, Bill?
Die Hard in Space, right, Jim?
Oh,
yeah. That's actually my 5-word summary. Space Die Hard completely works. Hashtag call me Hutch.
Oh, I love it.
Nice.
And let me tell you, Dan, it's number 11 on my list, so it just missed. I love that episode.
It is great. Very good episode.
That's a great. My number 8 is one that I found a lot of Trek fans don't enjoy as much as I do, and I guess that kind of surprises me. And at number 8, I picked Darmok.
Oh, my sister will be very happy.
Yeah.
My sister will be happy. My sister loves that episode.
I think it's a fabulous episode because I think it teaches us a lot about our ability to actually communicate with people instead of just talking at them. My 5 words are: communication is essential to success. Hashtag Temba his arms wide.
Spectacular.
I think it uses metaphor, although a little bonk on the head. I think it does it exceedingly well in telling a really great science fiction story and not just a Star Trek story.
Right.
No, I see that on top 10 lists all the time, and it's absolutely worthy choice. For me, it's top 35, I think. But
okay.
Spectacular episode. I love it. And it's got
Paul Winfield
in it, of course, who's spectacular.
Oh, he's perfect against Patrick Stewart in that episode. All right, gents, we're on to number 7, and we're getting close to the middle of the list. Dan, why don't you kick it off?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. Number 7, The Wounded. Description, great intro to Cardassian baddies. Hashtag Dan loves the spoonheads. I've always been a great Cardassian fan. Gul Dukat is my all-time favorite Star Trek villain in Star Trek history. And actually Mark Limo is in this episode as Gul Macet, which I think is great that he is a different character. It's just a great episode. The whole idea of the episode and what Miles has to go through, just fantastic. Love it.
I love it too. I'll take the next shot at number 7, and Jim will have you wrap up this round. My number 7 is actually Unification, parts 1 and 2. And my 5 words are this: Spock, 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 Spock. Hashtag Spock. If you had to guess, I love Spock, and I was so psyched that they wrote a really great script, even though they kind of finagled it as a two-parter. It didn't necessarily have to be, but it's I love watching this two-parter because I never tire of seeing those scenes between Leonard Nimoy and Patrick Stewart.
Yep, absolutely.
Hashtag cowboy diplomacy.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
Those are both spectacular episodes.
Nice episode. I actually watched that very recently for the first time in a long time, and actually tweeted about this the other day. I was unprepared for the emotional reaction I got when Leonard showed up on screen at the end of part 1. I didn't expect it to hit me the way it did.
I saw that tweet.
yeah.
Pardek? How do you have Pardek?
Well, and Mark Leonard, of course.
Oh,
so good.
His final appearance as Sarek is just amazing. You know, that whole Bendai syndrome scene where Picard goes to him. It's chilling. It's sad, but it's beautiful all at the same time. It's definitely one of my top 10.
Spectacular choice. My number 7, which I am confident at least one of you will have this above, if not both, is Yesterday's Enterprise. And my 5-word summary is, want more Rachel Garrett, please. Hashtag ambassador class.
Nice.
I love the Enterprise C. I think it's an awesome shit.
I love the Enterprise C too, although it's no spoiler to anybody who's listened to this podcast for a while.
It's not
I hate Yesterday's Enterprise.
Oh, you do? I don't think I knew that.
I do.
Oh, dude, don't even get him started on this.
Is it because of the Guinan feeling it all out?
It's the Guinan feeling it all out. It's the really poor... It can't decide whether it's a time travel episode or a dimensional shift episode.
Oh, you're crazy. It's both of those things.
But it allows Tashi Yar to exist at 2 points in time, and she can't. And that's my problem with it.
Two times.
Jim is speechless.
But it's not.
With ships flying from planet to planet across impossible distances of space and showing up at the planet and talking to one guy who represents the whole planet. But that's okay. There's
an explanation for that. This one. It's either the same timeline or it's not, and it contradicts itself.
I'm fascinated. How have I missed that listening to your podcast all these years? I must have just forgotten. I blocked it out.
There's a reason why tricorder is your favorite. I get it. I kid. But I do like, I do understand that people love that episode. I know that I'm in the minority on that one, and I respect that. I think that's a great pick at number 7, though, Jim.
Copy that, sir.
Copy that. Dan,
Bill,
you already gave us your number 7.
I did.
So I'm going to head on to number 6 because I lost count for a second. And I'll take this one first.
That's a good idea.
My number 6 is the Drumhead. Because I was transfixed by this episode when it came out. It reminded me, just like The Crucible. My 5 words are Salem Witch Trials and 2368. Hashtag, I've brought down bigger men than you, Picard.
That was very good.
Thank you. Gene Simmons, not that Gene Simmons, is fantastic in this episode. I loved her in this. I loved her in the reboot of Dark Shadows that happened in the 90s. I was amazed she wanted to do Star Trek, and I'm glad she did because I love this episode.
It's a classic episode. All-time great. And Tarsis is one of my favorite characters. Yeah. Such an underrated performance. So well done that's Spencer Garrett, the actor. So good.
And that scene with Patrick, where he's having tea with him is fantastic.
Yep.
It says a lot about both of those characters.
I used to know
he was about 12 years old, that actor, in that episode, and then now you see him, it's like, wow, he's the old guy.
Go ahead.
I used to know that speech that Picard gives at the end would set Satie off by heart, and if I did know it right now, if I could remember it, I'd do it, but I don't.
That's worthy of any top 10 list.
Well, thank you very much. Jim, why don't you regale us with your number 6?
My number 6, I might get emotional here because it always makes me cry, is Lower Decks.
Nice.
My 5-word summary is Cito Jaxa lives, always, forever. hashtag game-changing perspective, because that's why I love this episode. I love that it's coming at it from a completely different perspective of the downstairs crew, as you were, in the upstairs-downstairs analogy.
I'm going to tell you...
Super cool to see it at that level.
I'm going to tell you why I love that choice, Jim. I originally was not a huge fan of this episode way back when it first came out. And I think it's because I only thought of a couple scenes of the episode, which made me think, it's all right. I saw it again recently, and it blew me away. It absolutely blew me away, and you are absolutely right. Seeing that different perspective of what it's like to be on a starship is what makes this episode so awesome. It's not something that you are used to seeing on the Enterprise. So what I said about how I disliked it back in whenever I said it in a previous episode, completely throw it out the window because it is a phenomenal episode. And seeing Sita back on screen for even that one episode is worth it just in itself.
I loved this episode immediately when I saw it, when it first ran. And so much so, like, back then I was recording them all on VHS so I could watch them again. I watched it 2 more times that night because, like you, Jim, I love the perspective. We never see, the people who do, the shift work or, the work below decks and how they might, congregate as their own little sub families like they do, kind of like the senior staff does. And I thought it was a great perspective to bring to Star Trek. And then just adding in, Shannon Phil's performance as Cito Jackson in this episode, it's a home run all the way around.
I mean, it adds so much depth to the ship, to the show, to everything that's happening, layers and layers behind the main crew. And to see them kind of working on something in the background while the crew is doing something, but you see that's the main plot, but they're in the front. It's really, really well done. And
plus there's Cardassians in it.
And there's Cardassians, and the continuity with the First Duty is just super cool. When you kind of see her and you realize, wasn't that the girl from First? So good.
Absolutely. Dan, how about your number 6, buddy?
My number 6 is simple enough. Q-Who. The Federation's greatest threat arrives. Hashtag, they're carving us up like a roast. Any Q episode is usually one that's very enjoyable. This one, of course, brought the Borg into the whole Star Trek universe. And that was, the first time you see it, this was a scary episode. I mean, first time seeing it, I was like, man, this is bad news. And it's just brilliantly done. It sets up so much. Of course, there were hints about the Borg in previous episodes, like the Neutral Zone, but this is the one we really see it. And damn, it's a good one.
Oh, without a doubt. I remember the first time I saw that, I had goosebumps. Especially during the whole roast carving scene, and that effect of them pulling the cross section out of the saucer. I was just like beside myself. I'm like, oh my God. Because it was a total game changer for Starfleet and the Federation. Right. I think it's a great, great pick.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that episode elicits real fear when you're watching it. It's so strong. And definitely top 20 on my list. Hashtag 18 dead.
Oh, wow. Nice one.
If you can't take a bloody nose, perhaps you should go home and lay under your bed.
Wow. Well, we're just going to be riffing on this episode all night long. Since we are halfway through our rankings, that leaves the top 5 yet to be spoken for, and I am really interested to see your number ones. I can't wait, honestly. And let's proceed with number 5. Dan, since you ended the last round, why don't you start this one?
Sure, I'd be happy to. My number 5 is one that we actually devoted an entire episode to recently, and that is the Pegasus. I think it is just a phenomenally written episode. I have 2 descriptions. One's funny and one's serious. My first one being the funny one, saying Enterprise finale comes from here. So that's, too bad. But actually the real description is cloaking device experiment gone wrong. Hashtag don't tell me what I can't do. Little Lost reference. So
good.
It is such a great episode. The whole episode is just so well written. It's just great.
Excellent. I can't argue with that. And that's primarily because my number 5 is also the Pegasus.
Fantastic.
Great.
I didn't think we'd have any overlap, but apparently we do. And I don't know Dan's rankings. I'm just as surprised as everyone else.
That's awesome.
My 5 words are Riker's loyalty gets completely divided. Hashtag point the phaser at Pressman.
So good.
But everything you said about the episode, Dan, I echo it completely.
And it's number 12 on my list, so just on the outside. And my hashtag was Treaty of Algernon. I love that continuity.
I like that.
Good continuity reference there. Yep.
Well, Jim,
I just
that
like
leaves
the way Picard says it.
Jim, that leaves you for the number 5 spot since we doubled up.
So this one might be a little controversial for some listeners, so make sure you send all your emails and complaints to Bill and Dan. Number 5 on my list is Who Watches the Watchers? I love this episode. My 5-word summary is best lesson ever, religion sucks. Hashtag it really, really does. You know where I stand on that.
Well, I wonder why you'd say that would be controversial. That's amazing. I can't see why that would be controversial at all.
No. People love talking about that. But such a strong episode. I mean, so much going on with the Proto-Vulcans, the Prime Directive being seen in action in a really believable, executable way that hasn't been done before. Sure. Quite different than Private Little War saying, "Hey, we're not going to violate the Prime Directive, but we're going to be down here just walking around just to see how things are going."
Yeah. Well, and I think it's this episode that lays kind of the groundwork, or at least the seed for insurrection later on with the whole duck blind idea.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's interesting. I'm surprised it's that high. I mean, I like the episode; it's solid. I just I'm surprised by that pick. Good job, Jim.
Well, it's also got Ray Wise in it.
Yeah,
and he is one of my favorites.
I definitely see why it's that high. I mean, we get to see Picard take an arrow at close range, so I mean that's worth the episode right there.
Spectacular.
Definitely. Well, gents, we're at the number 4 spot, and we're fast closing in on the last round with number 1. But for number 4, I'll kick this one off. It's an episode that is widely loved by many, and I'm sure it's somewhere in your guys' top 4. But for me, it's number 4. It's The Inner Light. It's there's nothing I can say about this that hasn't already been said by millions of Trekkies everywhere. It's the first time I saw it, it reduced me to tears. And it's my 5 words are the life Picard never had. Hashtag that damned flute. Gets me every time.
Yep.
So
a perfect top 5 choice.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm not going to say anything about it yet.
Me too.
Fair enough. Well, in which case, Jim, why don't you give us your number 4?
So my number 4 is a callback to, I think it was on your list, Bill. I think it might have been your number 10, was All Good Things.
Yes.
Which for me is simply, in 5 words, the best TV finale ever, possibly hashtag sky's the limit.
Love it.
Great hashtag.
Such a perfect finale for the series, the characters, everything. And obviously it's been talked about a lot, but so much better than Generations in terms of a 2-hour production.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing that they were able to pull that off and tie it up so perfectly.
It's hard to believe they were written by the same writers.
Point.
Writing's not an easy job.
No, it's not. That's true. But I'm glad that it had such a fantastic note to end on. Dan, that leaves you at number 4, buddy. Bring up the rear.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because, Jim, kind of like what Bill and I just went through with Pegasus, I also chose All Good Things for my number 4. Picard? Okay. Is there a John Luck Pickard here? Yeah. Picard must save humanity again. Hashtag great. We all came from a puddle of goo in France. It is, like you said, Jim, the best finale of the series, and maybe I'd put it right up there with one of the greatest finales in television.
It really is.
I think it's great that you mentioned your hashtag makes me think of that final scene. Of course, the look on Picard's face, realizing that he should have done this a long time ago. it just says it all. It is such a wonderful episode. Of course, Patrick is in just about every single scene, and he does a phenomenal job in every timeline. And it is just a wonderful, wonderful ending to a great series.
It's such a great compliment to the pilot that Gene and Dorothy Fontana put together with Farpoint. I just, I think it's, as far as TNG goes, it's perfection. It really is.
Yeah, such a great bookend. So,
Well,
so Farpoint's your number 3? Is that what you said?
No. Number 3. I'm really starting to wonder what your guys' top 3 picks are. Jim, why don't you kick off number 3, man? And then,
all right, number 3 we just talked about is The Inner Light, and my 5-word summary is oft imitated but never surpassed, and the hashtag is "It's me. I'm the someone." Which I know Dan can do way better. Come on, Dan, do it.
Oh, it's me. I'm the someone.
I love that moment. I love the pacing of the episode. I love the execution. I love the depth that it gives to Picard throughout the rest of the series. Really, really strong.
Obviously, I agree because it's. I've already gone through it.
Just not as much as Jim, I guess.
Wow.
Or you, maybe.
Yeah, or you.
True. We'll see.
We don't know what your number 3 is yet, Dan.
My number 3?
Yeah.
My number 3, it's going to come with a caveat. It is the best of both worlds. The Borg assimilate Picard, enough said. Hashtag best cliffhanger in television history. I say with a caveat because I don't... This was when we were talking about, are we going to, parts 1 and 2 as one episode or separate episodes? Part 1 is where this mostly comes from. I think part 1 is awesome. Part 2, for me, is just good. I wasn't really happy with how they ended it by basically just putting the Borg to sleep. I thought that was kind of a cop out. But the first episode, the cliffhanger, the music, Shelby, the Borg, everything just is. It is the best cliffhanger. I just remember having to wait that whole summer sucked because it was just awful. But yeah, that's my number 3.
That's a solid pick at number 3. I know it's a number 1 for a lot of people, just not you, and apparently maybe not some others of us.
Well, if we're jumping into number 2s now, right?
Well, I got to go number 3 first.
Oh, you said your 3. Good. Okay, go.
I'll go with my 3. My number 3 is actually the episode that follows this. It's Family.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's one of the best hours of Star Trek produced. I think my 5 words are perfect follow-up to Borg Aftermath, hashtag Broken Picard. We get to see Jean-Luc Picard in a place we've never seen a starship captain, battered, bruised, broken, robbed of everything that he was. And what does he do to try to put it all back together? He goes home to the brother that used to torment him. It's a fantastic family story, and it's one I love. The B story with the Rozhenkos aboard the Enterprise is fun. But Patrick Stewart does some great emoting in this episode, and I love it.
But what does it mean, arrogant son of a... I love that episode, top 25 on my list. It's a fantastic choice. It's so cool to have that in your top 3.
Thanks.
I love the way, I can't remember the gentleman's name who played his brother, but at the end when they hug, the look on his face when he kind of just like stands up is like, okay, enough of that. I think it's great. And I really think it's a shame that they wrote off those 2 characters as easily as they did in Generations. That was just a farce.
I would have been okay with it if it had just been executed better.
Yeah.
You're right. Easy as they did is probably your point there. Yeah. It just wasn't done very well.
Well, gents, we have 2 spots left.
Yes.
And there's so many episodes to talk about. Dan, we're going to let you go first with number 2.
Okay.
And then Jim will go, and I'll wrap up the caboose section here.
Well, it's another one that we've dedicated a whole podcast to, guys. And my number 2 is Chain of Command.
Yes.
Cardassian torture and Enterprise chaos. Hashtag, hey, Riker, get the frickin' Delta shift started. Jellicoe is awesome in this. I know a lot of people it rubs the wrong way, both in the crew and people watching the episode. I think he's brilliant. He's a brilliantly written character. The part 2, which focuses mainly on the torture that Picard goes through with Gul Madred, and an excellent performance by David Warner. They are just two stories that both the A story and the B story are just as good. There's no lessening of the story with anything that goes on in each of these 2 episodes of the 2-parter. And, it's my number 2. And I think it's got I've got a lot more love for it based on the fact that we've talked about it recently. And it just is so awesome to watch over and over again.
I'm not going to say too much about this because it might occupy a spot on my list, maybe. But everyone knows I love this episode. I watched it again recently because Mission Log had it this week. So it gave me another excuse to watch it, and couldn't agree more, Dan.
Well,
Awesome.
If you love Cardassians, it needs to be in your top
Absolutely.
3 or 4. And
Yeah.
it's in my top 20. And my 5 words and hashtag is basically the same as yours. It's seriously, Riker, get it done. Hashtag Delta Shift. So Jellicoe is just so well done.
Riker's such a dick in this episode too.
He really is.
No, he's not.
He's such a baby, is what he is.
Sir, I was gonna actually speak to you about Delta Shift. Actually, Gamma Shift will be on.
No, I don't think they will.
Picard, you gonna help me out here, you big jerk?
Yeah. Jim, what about your number 2?
My number 2 is one we just talked about, Best of Both Worlds.
Nice.
Which is my 5-word summary, Trek's iconic pop culture moment, hashtag longest summer ever. And for those of us old enough to have watched it live and then have to wait 3 months, that was brutal.
It was only 3 months?
It was.
Like 3 or 4 months. Brutal.
The best part about the summer hiatus during those years were that they'd only replay the good episodes during the summertime. You wouldn't often see the ones that were like kind of eh. So, you got to see a whole bunch of great episodes from the, season 3 that summer. And then they kicked it off the week before with watching the cliffhanger again. And it was like, no, please just show me the next part. It was brutal. Absolutely brutal. Jim, my number 2, also happens to be the best of both worlds.
Yes.
Get that crossover.
My 5 words are when it finally came together, hashtag best cliffhanger ever.
Yep.
So that's
Hashtag.
yeah, that's I wonder where I heard that from.
I mean, it's been talked about forever, but there's a reason it's on everyone's top list. It's that good.
Michael Piller really killed that first part, and then he didn't even know if he was coming back.
Yeah.
And I was okay with the second part. My only issue with the second part was what I arguably think is the worst line in the history of Star Trek is when Picard is saying sleep and Beverly says, he's exhausted. Yeah, but
it was meant
Beverly,
to.
No.
I don't think it was meant
Can't you go back to Starfleet Medical for a year?
Again.
Where's Pulaski, damn it?
Are we the number 1?
Oh, boy.
We are at number 1. It's the last round. Jim, we're going to have you go last on this one because I'm curious to hear what you have. We want to save it for the end.
It's an outlier. It's an outlier.
I love it. I will go first for the number 1 spot. And my number 1 is an episode we've already talked about. It's Chain of Command.
Nice.
Yes.
I love it. It's not because I'm a big Cardassian fan, although I do like them, but Dan, we talked about this on our Chain of Command episode last month. Mm-hmm. This is, in my opinion, Patrick Stewart's best performance ever as Jean-Luc Picard.
Interesting.
That part 2 is a tour de force, and he should have gotten an Emmy nomination for it, as we talked about, in my opinion. And my hashtag is get it done, Will. I for the longest time, my number 1 would have been the best of both worlds, but a lot, my critical analysis of Chain of Command recently has kind of vaulted it to the top spot. I think it's the best there is. So that's my number 1, guys.
Very nice.
Can't go wrong. It has literally everything in that episode, from the action and adventure to the performances and the kind of one-on-one play between Warner and Patrick Stewart is so great. And actually, I was going to say that I actually think it's his second best performance, and his best performance was in Family, which is number 3 on your list. So I see where you're going.
Yeah. Especially when you consider that David Warner was reading his lines off cue cards.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I know. Because you wouldn't know it unless you had been exposed to that fact, because he's just such an incredible actor.
Yep.
So, all right. So my number 1 chain of command, Dan.
Yes.
You're number 1, sir.
Well, we've talked about it a couple of times already. My number 1 is The Inner Light. Description, the best Picard episode ever. I have 2 hashtags. One of them has very serious meaning for me. The first one is hashtag put your shoes away. And the second one, which is my hashtag, is, and I use this at other places, is hashtag now will never come again. This episode has a tremendous meaning for me in that line alone. I think Picard just does a phenomenal job here. The emotion in this episode, Bill, you said that it brought you to tears the first time you saw it. It brings me to tears whenever I watch it. I could watch it as soon as we're done tonight, and it'll bring me to tears. It is so good. It is so great. It shows that Picard gets what he probably has always wanted and never had the chance, and that's a family. It is an emotional roller coaster. I love it. I will always love it. It will always be my number 1 of TNG.
It's me. I'm the someone. So good.
Seize the day.
There's no way we could argue with that as a very impassioned and spirited defense of your number 1, Dan, and it's a great pick, man.
Thanks, buddy.
It really is. That's a worthy list topper.
Well, Jim, speaking of list toppers, you now have the final pick. It's like the last pick in the NFL draft, man.
Mine
no
is
pressure.
It's an outlier, and it's been my number 1 for probably 15, 20 years. I just love the complex layering and the world building of this episode, and it kind of changes the way arc storytelling is happening in Trek, and it is Redemption.
Wow.
End of season 4, start of season 5. And I'm not even that big a Klingon guy. I like Klingons, of course, but they're not like the driver for me, but just so much going on with the Duras sisters and the Romulans and Worf and getting his name back and just everything going on. And Sela, exactly, which I love. Sorry, Dan. It's just so much complex plotting. It really took it to a new height for Trek. And my 5 words and a hashtag is Data's shining moment, perfect Trek, hashtag FU Hobson. I hate that guy.
Yeah.
That guy's a jerk.
But Data is awesome in command of that ship, and the way that he snaps at Hobson. That's a very interesting pick, Jim. I would not have expected that at all. That one surprises me.
No, it's never on anybody's list, and it's not it's not a pick to try to be kind of I'm going to have something different. It's just something that's spoken to me for 20 years because of the layers and the complexity of the plotting, and I'm always surprised that it's kind of left off everyone's list.
Well, it's really interesting to me because it's never been my favorite season ender, season premiere duo, but given the way you just described it, I feel like I have to go back and watch it again now, simply just to gain a new perspective.
There is so much going on.
Yeah, I never thought about the world building and the and the overtones and all kinds of stuff like that. So you've given me something to think about there, man.
And Tony Todd.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Oh God.
And Tony Todd.
Yep.
Well, gents, that wraps up our top 10 lists. I think you guys both had fantastic lists. I love them.
Yeah, my list was the best. How about
yours? Was pretty good too.
No, I think my list was probably the best out of all of them. I'm
gonna go watch my list right now.
With Jim's being number 2 and Dan's being all right.
Wow. Well, Aquiel was my number 1, but I figured I'd change it because everybody would be in agreement so much.
Peer pressure.
Worth it. Yeah.
Are you going to follow that up with Interface at number 2?
Masks.
It's at some point, Jim. We should have you come back and we'll do the bottom 10.
Oof.
Oh boy, that would be rough. Hashtag imaginary friend.
I've got a whole just a whole bunch I could put on there. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Dark Page, for example.
Oh, I like that episode. Sorry, I think the Loxana story works.
I think the story works. I just don't think it's executed well, especially the whole damn song in the middle that Deanna's father sings that goes on for like 10 minutes. It's like Scotty in the animated series.
All right, touche.
So, wow. So definitely a lot to think about. These all look like perfect little mini marathons, as you mentioned, Jim. And
for sure.
I think I may do the same thing. So, Jim, thank you so much for coming by, man. We always love it when you show up.
Too much fun. I always love doing it. Thanks, guys.
Too much fun. Obviously, people can find you at TrekRanks, and where might they stalk you on social media?
And on Twitter at EnterpriseExtra, where I do nothing but talk about Star Trek.
Where'd you
I wonder
get
why
that
you're
name?
called that. Yeah.
Yeah, just fired the phasers
On
the
September
ship.
24th.
One time.
One time.
It's pretty cool.
One ping only. Wait, sorry, crossing the streams.
Silly.
Put the ship on red alert.
Oh, wait, but don't forget the nod, because you give a really kick-ass nod.
Good trip and nod. Yes, it is.
Yep. Those, by the way, that is a great arc on Enterprise. I watched those episodes recently.
Yes.
Totally awesome. They definitely hold up. And dude, you did a great job. I'm not going to lie.
I was in the episode that introduced to POW. Yep.
Yes,
Killed
you
it,
were.
man. Absolutely.
Pretty
Yes,
fun.
you were.
But yes, those are great episodes, and I was lucky. I could have been in Precious Cargo. Jeez.
Oh, man.
Whoa.
Is that the one with Padma Lakshmi?
Yes, it is.
Jim,
Now
please pack your knives and go. Yeah.
All right. I get the hint.
Jim, why don't you hang on for a sec? We're going to wrap the show up and stuff, and
Perfect.
and then we'll talk about Dan. So, Dan, of course, as you know, every week we are incredibly grateful to Jim's favorite band, 5 Year Mission. They provide all of the music you hear here on Trek Geeks, and honestly, we love them to death. Dan, did you know they're working on year 4 right now?
I did know that. Did you know that?
I did not, which is why I mentioned it to you.
Yeah,
So
year 4, finally. We've been waiting for it for a long time. We got word from FARC last week on social media that they have started. So that is something to very much look forward to. And another wonderful album by the boys in 5 Year Mission. Speaking of 5 Year Mission, Bill, I have a story to tell.
Of course you do.
Yes. My
course,
latest
yeah.
episode that I watched was a good one. We talked about it a little bit earlier, kind of. You know, it's a Romulan requests asylum on the Enterprise and claims that he's just a low-level roadie of a band.
no.
But it turns out
God.
that he's much more important than he says he is. You know, I don't even have to say it. You can say it for me.
It's the Defarctor.
There you go. Nice job, man. Yay.
What was that Loxana Page episode? I mean, the Loxana Troy episode? Oh, FARC Page. Right.
Yeah, the FARC page. Yeah. Wow, that's just new levels of pain and agony.
I have to do it every week.
I got Defarctor's pretty good. That was
Thank
pretty
you.
good.
See, I knew that I knew we brought you on the show for something, Jim.
Jim, this is 2 episodes in a row you've loved his Farkism, and we got to have a serious talk about your third appearance. Just we'll get some notes from the producers, and we'll get them to you. So head on out to 5yearmission.net, Dan's Farkisms aside, and get yourself all their albums. Become a great big fan. They're going to be the official house band at the Creation Convention in Chicago this year.
Nice.
And I know, I'm very excited about that. And please show them some love, because we love them and we're sure you'll be a fan. Dan. Year 4. Dan, our iTunes subscriber review campaign is in its final week of the last quarter. It's the last $25 we're giving away, buddy.
Wow. Yeah. It's really easy to get that $25 too. All you have to do is go and submit a review on iTunes, and you will be automatically entered into a drawing for that $25 Amazon gift card or the equivalent in US dollars in your country's Amazon store. Just go over to trekgeeks.com/iTunes for more details on how you can do that. And as always, we really appreciate the reviews, positive, negative. It doesn't matter. We want to make the podcast better, and we can do that by listening to what you say in those reviews. So thank you very much.
Without a doubt. Dan, next week, we have another return of the fan favorite.
Ooh.
I'm excited. You're excited.
Well, you love it. I love it. Our listeners love it. And it's time for more COC. That's what I'm calling it now, Bill. See it or skip it. COC. Yep.
Oh, that's what that means. Okay.
Yes. TNG.
What season?
Well, I'm getting to that, Jim.
Oh, God, I can't wait.
TNG, Season 3, with Amy Nelson from Earl Grey, Trek FM's podcast dedicated to Star Trek The Next Generation. So we are very excited to have her join us for yet another fun-filled hour of COC.
See, I don't think I'm going to get used to that one. The See It or Skip It's have been so fun to do, and we've gotten great response from everyone who's listened, except Jim Moorhouse, who thinks we're crazy when we say you should skip episodes.
Anytime you say you skip it.
Yeah. But no, we're going to have a great conversation with Amy, and that's next week for, God, what episode number is it next week? Is it
98?
98.
Holy moly.
Episode 98, closing in on 100.
Century.
Woo! I know. I think we may even have a special supplemental coming before too long.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Okay.
Dan, for more great Star Trek discussion, of course, we want people to check out Jim's favorite podcast, The Tricorder Transmissions, online at thetricordertransmissions.com. And, of course, for all the latest news on everything Star Trek, please visit our great friends at treknews.net. For now, this has been episode 97 of the Trek Geeks podcast. We do hope you all live long and prosper.
Coconut. Oh, wait a minute. Wrong series. Sorry.
Bing bong.
Whoa.
I am so scared.
Don't run and fall.
Sorry, you were channeling Friday the 13th, and I was channeling Blair Witch Project.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that in so long. Did you see the remake?
No.
No, I didn't either.
Nor did I see Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows, because it looked stupid.
Very stupid. I remember the first one had some parts that creeped me out a little bit, but
I feel like I shouldn't use the word stupid. I should just say it was very Dan, because it means the same thing.
Is that how we're going to go tonight?
That's how you've already decided to go.
Me? How about you, stupid?
We get on the line, you try to scare the heck out of me, making me think a serial killer's coming to get me.
They're making it a video game.
So wait, do you get to play Jason?
Yeah. It's a multiplayer only game, and it's being produced by the producer of it, or the guy who's paying for a big chunk of it, is the guy who made the original one way back in the 70s or 80s, whenever it came out. But it's multiplayer only, and like 6 of you are camp counselors, and 1 of you is Jason, and you have to work together in order to escape him while he tries to kill you. There was a Kickstarter, and it made like 5 times more than they were asking for. And the game's coming out next year, I think.
This sounds like the government's way to figure out which one of you sick people is going to be a homicidal maniac.
Hello, can I play Jason?
I mean, Dan.
And I've seen some of the beta or alpha. I'm not sure if it's an alpha or beta. Yeah. Ooh, it's messy. Messy.
Wait, you mean the code or the
gameplay?
Crime scene.
Yeah. So yeah, that's coming out this year. So yeah, it's pretty. The graphics are pretty sweet. It's going to be pretty cool. I'll be getting it probably. You want to play?
Interesting. No, not really. No real interest, gotta say.
All right. Okay. What are you drinking tonight, Annie?
I was having a Russian Imperial Stout called. Actually, let me find the name.
Oh, all right. We'll just wait here, and while you do that, our listeners just,
Well, I threw the bottle out already.
Oh, well, God forbid. We're going to be podcasting. You're supposed to have it with you. What are you, is this your first week at this?
No, the directions say you're supposed to pour it into a glass, and they want you to pour it hard, so just up in the bottle and not do a smooth pour like you would normally do. Wake up, jerk.
Oh, hi. Sorry. I'm sorry. I totally lost track of time. What were you saying?
It's called Wake Up Dead Nitro from Left Hand Brewing Company in Longmont, Colorado.
Whoa.
It's a Russian Imperial Stout with elements of cocoa, dried fruit, and licorice notes.
Wow. Okay. That was worth the wait, actually.
It's 10.2% alcohol by volume.
Nice. I stand corrected. I apologize, because that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, so I mean, normally you would take a beer and you pour it at like, a 35 or 40 degree angle.
Yep.
No, they want you to actually turn this one upside down right away.
Oh, does it have one of those nitro balls in it?
No, actually it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Guinness has those, but not this beer.
Huh.
Because Guinness actually is poured with nitrogen.
Is it tasty?
It actually really is. I mean, I'm not a big licorice fan, but this, the licorice notes in this are just really, really sublime.
How's a coconut?
It doesn't say coconut. It said cocoa.
Oh, I thought you said coconut. I'm sorry. Now I don't even care for it.
What is your problem?
Nothing. Just kidding. I'm trying something new myself.
What are you trying?
A tequila kamikaze.
And here I thought you were going to say the Tears of Innocence. It's tequila kamikaze. Very interesting.
My wife, I made my wife a regular kamikaze with vodka, triple sec, and lime juice. And she said, you can do these with tequila too. So I tried it, and whoa.
I believe that.
It's yummy. And I got my whiskey barrel tequila, so it's got an even little better taste to it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really, really smooth.
In just over 3 weeks, we're going to be at the Jose Cuervo distillery in Mexico. And we're doing a tour and tasting, and I can't wait.
You're a jerk.
Thank you.
I hope Kelly has a wonderful time.
What about me?
You ready to do this?
Wow. Wow, no, I'm not done.
No, I want to hear more. No, I actually hope you have a great time. That'll be awesome. Have you done that before, or was it a rum place that you drove by or something?
We did the Bacardi plant in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Yes. Nice. So, that's awesome.
Have you ever watched the show, speaking of coconut, Naked and Afraid?
I have not.
Oh my God. What an absolute show.
I was going to say, that's a description of what I'm like every time we podcast.
Dear God, I hope you're wearing pants. So
Anyway,
we're channel serving, right? We're on the Discovery Channel. It was some show about these egregiously large log homes. And then at the top of the next hour, it became the show called Naked and Afraid, which is where they take these two people, they drop them on this tropical island or coast, and they're supposed to stay alive for 21 days. Naked.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do people watch this crap?
One of the guys in this episode we saw learned about his survival skills from YouTube. I'm thinking, well, that's only going to really serve you well if your iPhone's charged and you got service. Where they were on the Yucatan Peninsula, not so much.
Oh, man. And you watched the whole episode?
We were stunned by how big of a train wreck it was. We only watched it's an hours long marathon. We watched most of one episode and just decided we couldn't stand these idiots.
Wow. See, I won't watch stuff like that anymore. Not anymore. I never really did before. These reality shows are so freaking ridiculous, and they do them for anything now. Yeah. It's nothing but money grab for people, and I refuse to be part of the money giving grab.
I think
like Industry Studios.
Although I might point out that all of these studios churning out reality shows have actually churned out content.
That's true. Good point. Absolutely.
Where to date, Industry Studios is not.
And won't.
No. So you ready to do this?
I'm ready. I do want to tell you something. I got lots of change coming up this week. Before we start, I want to tell you about my change.
What change?
I got a new. You're going to be disappointed, but I went back to Apple. I got an iPhone 7.
So you're a quitter. Okay.
I'm just more comfortable with it, and
because you're a quitter.
Yeah, I'm saying goodbye to my beloved Jeep Wrangler this week.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Holy crap!
I'm going back to what I love just a little bit more.
Your Malibu Barbie dream car?
My Malibu Barbie dream car. Nope, the new Ridgeline. I decided to go see.
You were telling me about those last year.
Yep, I decided to go see what they could do, and everything fell in place better than I could have expected. So, I'm gonna be picking it up this week.
Nice.
Oh, it's got everything I want in it. I'm very happy.
It's got everything except some very fine Trek Geek swag, which we'll have to rectify.
Well, I do have a Trek Geek magnet that will be going on there that you gave me. And since it has a trailer hitch on the back, I do still have my Trek Geeks trailer hitch that was on my Jeep. That'll go on there. Well, so, yeah, but I will be losing the Boldly Go tire cover from the Jeep. So that's a little sad.
Oh, that's all right, though.
But that's okay. But I'm very excited. Sue's very excited. It should be pretty cool.
Awesome.
I'll post some pictures for you.
Now are you ready to do that? Thank you, Doug Jones. You ready to do this?
I am ready. Let's do it.